All right, and here we go. Good morning, everybody. It's the 31st of January, half 11. Oh, it's a cold morning here in Cork. It's a very cold morning. I tell you can't get rid of this fucking weather, man. Like, Cork is Ireland. No, I'm going to say Ireland. Ireland's got the weirdest weather the world's ever seen. Like, if you're not from Ireland, guys, it's a lovely place to travel to. But the weather, it's so up and down. Like, tomorrow, it could be 15 degrees. 24 hours later, it can be 2 degrees. I'm not joking you guys. Like, I'm literally not joking you. It's... Oh, anyway. What am I rambling on about? Fucking jeez. I don't know about myself sometimes. Seriously, lads. Okay, today I want to talk about Formula One. Predictions for 2023. Ooh, we're getting very close. And really exciting, the Netflix Drive to Survive, the next season, is out on February the 24th. So it's always great. They always have brilliant timing for that, don't they? Just before the season kicks off. And obviously they've got to edit all the footage, takes time, but it's great timing, great timing. I mean, 2022 was a pretty good year for racing, right? There was some good battles, like even in Silverstone now, when was it Alonso and Hamilton and I forget his name now. Was it Bottas? And with three of them into a corner in Luffield, and all of a sudden Hamilton comes out in the lead. I mean, some fantastic fucking racing back in 2022. Certainly wasn't as good as 2021, as we all remember Verstappen Hamilton. I mean, that was just... I mean, I honestly think, guys, it's going to be hard to actually ever get any race season as good as 2021. It was fucking unbelievable, wasn't it? If anybody's seen it. And by the way, guys, if you haven't seen Drive to Survive yet, you've got to watch it. Like, excuse me, I did a recent episode on Drive to Survive, and I'm going to repeat myself here, so you'll have to forgive me. But I'll put it this way. I've got a couple of very close friends now I've grown up with. And even one of my friends now, he's married, kids, and his wife, she despised Formula One. Like, Formula One? What the fuck are you talking about? Go away from me. Why would I watch that? Right? Totally understandable. It's not a woman's thing, okay? And Drive to Survive came out. She is now watching every single race live. Like, even if they're out during the day, okay, she'll record it and stuff, but they come back and it's like, it's a big family thing. They sit down, they're getting ready, they're putting the kids to bed or whatever, and then they'll have it on, and the husband and wife, they sit down together and here we go, honey, this sort of thing. I mean, it's unbelievable, right? Honest to God, guys, Drive to Survive, you have to watch. And I'm going to give you a bit of insight because, as many of you know, I was a race driver back in the day. And the team owners are full of shit, right? This is known. And you'll see the bitching, the moaning, the complaining from team owners, the drivers. Team owners, that is exactly what they're like in real life. You can't trust them for a minute. 1 minute, you're a superstar. 5 minutes later, you're nothing. And all of a sudden they start bullying the drivers. I mean, it's insane. Now, not every team driver would bully a driver, but they'd make them feel that they're nothing, second rate. It's amazing how it swings, and you'll see that in Drive to Survive. And yeah, it's so accurate. Now, with the drivers these days, back in my days, drivers didn't complain, they didn't bitch and moan, right? In karting, yeah, a lot of drivers fucking bitch and moan like little wimps, right? But for some reason, when you get to cars, totally different scenario. I think people grow up, but the F1 drivers these days, Jesus Christ, they're just such a bunch of, oh God, crybabies, absolute crybabies. And it's almost like the fashion now, if you're not a complainer, you're not a Formula One driver. It's madness. And if you've read or if you heard my last episode on this, and I was talking about Lewis Hamilton, I'm not the biggest fan of Hamilton, but he's the only kind of guy, and Alonso, they've got that old school thing about them. Now, Hamilton is a bitch. He complains all the fucking time, and I don't get it because he's an old school driver. Now, Alonso, he does a little bitching every now and then, but it's not the worst. As in, all right, Alonso, get over it. I just don't get it. I don't get it. And Alonso, he's the best out there. There's no doubt about it. He is the best in the field. So F1 2022 was it was a good year. I mean, we saw that the new cars, the new designs, they look futuristic, even though it's amazing, right? When you actually start watching it, it's like you've watched those cars for the last 10 years. They're good. They're a couple of seconds off. They're just a little bit slower than 21. But I think as the teams get more comfortable with them, the slight development they can do on it, they'll probably get within, I would say, a half a second now of the actual lap times they were doing in 21. Now, I mean, I'm just going to pull up here now, guys. I actually got my computer open here, and I'm just going to go Google here now. Not Google. I'm just going to double check my the driver lineup here, right, for 2023. And it's not bad. Like, we've got a couple of new guys in here, which is interesting. They've come from F2 and places like that, and I think they'll bring a bit of freshness to the grid, right? Bit of freshness. So let's have a look. I mean, you've got, okay, let's start with, where are we going to go? We'll start at the bottom. All right, let's start at the bottom. Okay, you got Williams. I mean, it's such a shame that Williams are struggling so much, you know. Frank Williams, he was, without doubt, guys, he was just an unbelievable team boss. Back in the day of the 90s and, well, the early 90s, he was the man. Like, yeah, Ferrari were there too, but what Frank Williams did with that team was unbelievable. You know, he got that car developed so well. He had Adrian Newey on board. You know, even in the Mansell days when Mansell was cleaning up. And by the way, if you haven't seen it, you should Google the year Mansell won the championship. Now, as far as I remember, was it 1995 or 1992? Where am I getting so far off? But anyway, Mansell, brilliant year. Mansell, fantastic driver. But the car was so fucking good. It was unbelievable. Now, if you're into the technical stuff, that car was so advanced when Mansell won that year that, how about I try and explain this? So, guys, if you drive a car on the road, right? Imagine you're going into a right-hand corner, and you're going in fast. Now, you know the way, if you're going into a right-hander, your body goes to the left, right? Because gravity's pushing you to the left, right? That's the G-force, obviously, okay? Whereas, excuse me, and not just the G-force, the car is loading up on the left-hand side as well, right? So a lot of times when you're setting up a car, or even a kart, if you're going into right-handers, so for instance, if you've got more right-handers on a track than left corners, you're concentrating a lot of the time on the left side of the car because all the weight is loading up on the front or to the back, right? So a lot of the times it's not about getting the right side of the car, it's about getting the left side of the car equal, because yes, you can actually set the car up for the right and the initial turn-in into the car, but a lot of times you shouldn't set the car up for the initial turn-in. You should be setting it up for the load after you've turned in and you've committed in the bend. Because yes, you might get some understeer. If people don't know what that is, I'll explain that. You might get some understeer going into the corner, but what happens when the car gets loaded up, right? That's a lot of the secret of setting up a car. Some people think, oh, you keep to the basics. Well, yeah, I'll keep the basics, but you don't start off with the entrance into the bend, right? And the car has to be fucking consistent. This is the most important part. Has to be consistent. It's better having a car 80%, 85% consistent than having a car that's really good for 2 laps, 3 laps, and it goes off. Pointless. So back to my key here, and the point about the Williams car is that, again, back to the example of when you turn in right, the car loads up on the left, right? What Williams did back then with Mansell is they had this new feature, electronic feature, where once you turned into the corner and in a right-hand corner, the car actually went the other way. It actually stayed and leaned in on the right-hand side of the car. So the car wasn't loading up on the left, right? It was actually going the opposite way. It was going against gravity, right? So the car, I mean, guys, it's so hard to explain that, like how much of a difference and impact that would have on your racing car. It's unbelievable, like, and you can see it. I mean, YouTube, Nigel Mansell highlights, World Championship year, World Championship win, you know, something like that. I mean, he was in Silverstone and he was, as far as I remember, he was 2 seconds a lap quicker than anybody else. Now, guys, I don't know if you know much about that. 2 seconds might not sound right a lot to you, but 2 seconds is like, it's like, I'm trying to give you an example. It'd be like Djokovic or Federer or Nadal beating someone in the final 5 sets to love. Right? Now, I know they don't go to 5 sets if you're winning straight sets. You go to 3 sets, but still, imagine that. It would be that much of a gap, winning 5 sets to love, right? And the guy getting no games off you. So it could be 6-love, 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 and 6-love. It's that much of a difference, 2 seconds. It's the world. Like, if you come in off a track, and look, I've had some of my bad moments in car racing too, where the car's not on it, I'm having a bad day, or both. You could be having a bad day and the car's not up for it, and it's not up to scratch, to par, and you're 2 seconds off the pace. Believe you me, you are fucking soul destroyed. You're actually almost thinking, Jesus Christ, I might as well give up. I mean, it's that bad, guys. It's that fucking bad. So, like, that was the Williams secret sauce back in the day. But all of a sudden, Frank Williams has left. You know, he's not around anymore, unfortunately. And, you know, his daughter took over, and you'll see that in the Netflix documentary. And I honestly think she means well. She'd love to carry on the legacy of Frank Williams and Williams. She just doesn't have that, I guess, the racing driver blood in her. Do you know what I mean? And it's not because she's a woman. Nope, not at all. Not at all. That's nothing to do with it. She just doesn't have it. I mean, I think even if Frank Williams had a son and he took over, he could be the exact same. He just wouldn't have the racing driver, the fucking skill Frank Williams had. Excuse me, guys. Sorry. I'm burping and coughing here. My God, I'm hope I'm not putting you off, fellas. So Williams, you've got Alex Albon and Logan Sargent up driving for Williams this year. Well, Alex, I don't rate him at all. He can put in a couple of quick laps every now and then, and that's fine. Now, I think he's consistently okay. You know? He can drive the car around, sure. He's not going to get you that extra 2/10 out of a car. No fucking chance in hell this guy can do it. He's not very good, guys. And you know how I know? You can hear it in his feedback of the car. You can hear it in his approach to racing. He's not with the races. He's not. He can drive the car consistently at 80%, right? And I think that's pretty much it. Logan Sargent, he's quite good. He's the new guy in here. He's obviously going to be gunning for it. He's going to be hungry, which that's what you want. You know, the smart and hungry guy. I think I would rate him to a degree. Of course, we haven't seen him in Formula 1 yet, but we'll see now during the year. Sargent, I think he could bring something to the team. He's not going to change Williams around because, look, at the end of the day, you still need the aerodynamics, the engineers, the chief aero guy. You need the Adrian Newey's in your team. You know, you need money behind you. So he's not going to turn around the team from a bottom team to the top. No way. But I do think he's quite good. He's certainly going to be hungry, which is going to be very interesting because who's going to take over? Like, I think at this stage Albon is Williams' number one pilot. But with Sargent in here, if they give him the right equipment, I think Sargent will actually overtake Alex to be the number one driver. And I think Sargent also knows a lot of the tracks that he's on, right? He's been there already racing because he'd be the support race for the Formula 1. So definitely keep your eye out on Sargent. I think he's definitely going to bring a fresh spunk to the grid, put it that way. So who else we have? Okay, so we've got AlphaTauri. And we've got Tsunoda and Nick De Vries. Now, De Vries obviously was the backup guy for Mercedes last year. Okay, so let's start with Tsunoda. I don't have much to say about this guy. I really don't. Whatever. He's just there because he's the Asian guy and he's bringing money to the team. It's as simple as that. Or he's bringing Works engines. Now, if people don't know where Works engines are, they're really special made engines, right? Like top shelf engines. If you can get something out of an extra bit of spunk power out of the engine, you'd call it the Works engine, right? So Tsunoda, he's not going to do much. Not at all. Not at all. Nick De Vries, again, kind of like the Sargent situation, right? This is his first proper year in Formula One. He's definitely he's got the mental strength. I definitely think this guy, De Vries, I think he's going to be good. Again, you can't rate them yet because they're not in Formula One yet, but I think De Vries will overtake Tsunoda as the number one. Then again, Tsunoda is bringing money, equipment to the team. And unfortunately, guys, that's the world of Formula One and motor racing in general, So they might even keep Tsunoda at the top. De Vries, mentally tough, no question. He's hungry for it, disciplined, focused, commitment. So it'll be interesting to see how he gets on this year. And the AlphaTauri, it's not the worst car. It's not. It can still pull out some good results every now and then. Actually, I've got my fingers crossed for Nick De Vries, definitely. Haas F1, well, I like this. Now, this is a guy I rate. Kevin fucking Magnussen. Magnussen is old school. He's just typical old school, tough as old boots Formula One driver. He doesn't bitch and moan and complain. Yeah, you'll hear him on the Netflix documentary and some interviews. He has some moments, but he's actually not complaining, right? Unfortunately, he's in a Haas F1 because there's no doubt about it, guys. I'm telling you this right now. If Magnussen was in the top team, he'd be winning races hands fucking down. Now, most of them would anyway. Okay, they would like I would say 80% of the drivers on the grid, if you put them in the top team, they're going to be winning the races, right? Now, Magnussen, I think he'll bring you that little bit extra. I think this guy can pull out 1 or 2 tenths when he needs to. Definitely, he's got an edge on a lot of people. Unfortunately, he's in a Haas F1. So, Nico Hülkenberg, that's his teammate, joining alongside Magnussen. That is a great one. Hülkenberg, he's quick. I don't know would I rate him that well. I don't know. I just don't know. He's been very unlucky. Now, thank God he's back in, and this guy has actually gone without a manager in Formula One, and I don't know how the fuck he has survived, guys. Honest to God. Like, what the hell is that about? Because people you just don't survive in Formula One without a manager covering your ass, right? But he's done it. He and hey, bravo to him. And he seems like a nice guy. He's committed. He's focused. I honestly, it's hard to kind of get a gauge on Hülkenberg how good he is yet. Now it'll be interesting because Magnussen versus Hülkenberg, that will be an interesting lineup this year, and we'll see how he goes. We'll see how he goes. It'll be an interesting one, but definitely I think Magnussen, he's got the edge over Hülkenberg. Okay, so let's move on. We've got Aston Martin, Lance Stroll, and Alonso. Like, Jesus. You see, I think Alonso is definitely the best driver on the grid. No question. The way he took on Michael Schumacher back in the day, he was up against Schumacher at his peak, okay? At his peak. The Schumacher and Ferrari, they were kicking ass. Alonso comes along, wins 2 world championships in a row, the only guy to take Schumacher down. And by the way, Schumacher would be my number 2 or 3 of all time, not Alonso. And the way he did it, and the way he He muscled against Schumacher because look, as much as I love Schumacher, Schumacher can be incredibly fucking on edge, dirty driving sometimes, and I didn't like that about him. And Alonso didn't want any of it. He's like, fuck off, Schumacher. He just went for it, won those 2 championships. Now the problem here is that you've got Lance Stroll as his teammate. Lance Stroll, I do actually rate him. Okay? I do actually rate the guy. He's a fucking quick pilot. Now, here's the problem. If any of you don't know, Lance Stroll's father is one of the owners of Aston Martin. Yes. That's a fucking problem. Okay? That is a fucking problem. So, are things going to be biased to his son? Well, you got to put your money on that it's going to be, right? I think Alonso's going to get drowned in that team. I hope to God he doesn't. I really do. Really do. But I don't have much hope for Alonso in the Aston Martin team. You know? I mean, and in fairness to Lance Stroll and his dad, if my dad owned Aston Martin and I'm in the team, why wouldn't you want your son to have the best equipment? Why wouldn't you want him to have an edge over the other guy? You know? So it's very understandable. But you know what? I like the driver lineup. Stroll, I definitely rate him. He's a fucking quick pilot. He's got a good head on his shoulders. He fucking complains and bitches and moans, though, to the team, and I hate that. He's like a little spoiled little baby, right? And I don't like that about him. He is quick, though. I'll give him that. And, of course, Alonso, definitely the best in the grid, no doubt. Alfa Romeo, Bottas, and Guan Yu. I don't even know how to pronounce his name. Guan Yu, I don't know much about this guy, to be honest. I haven't paid attention to much, so you'll have to forgive me, guys. I can't speak much about him. Bottas is good. He's good. I think he's more of a qualifier than a racer. Like, some of the laps that he did in the Mercedes when he was Hamilton's teammate, like, it was almost like Hakkinen. And I think Mika Hakkinen, when he used to drive for McLaren, Hakkinen is one of the best qualifiers of all time. He's right up there with Senna. Hakkinen was scary how good he was. And Bottas has a little bit of, he's got a little bit of Hakkinen in him, right? There's a couple of moments where you watch some of the onboards and, you're like, Jesus fucking Christ. He can pull it out of his ass every now and then. Now, yes, he's got to have the equipment behind him, but he's definitely more of a qualifier than a racer. That's my opinion on that. But now, I think Bottas will be the number one in that team. Alfa Romeo, are they going to go anywhere this year? I doubt it. But you know what? They seem like a good team, professional. They take it professionally. They just don't have enough money. Now, of course, the budget caps in Formula 1 these days, it should technically help, but it's not. Because you know what? You get the top team, they'll figure out a fucking way to make that car at the top. That's the way I'd look at that. Okay, let's move on to McLaren. McLaren, kind of like the Williams, when I was saying about Williams that... McLaren, they were so good at the top, they'd Senna and Prost in the team, they'd Hakkinen, and they'd, so many great drivers out over the years. They were definitely the top team. Ron Dennis, kind of like the Williams, Frank Williams. Ron Dennis, unbelievable team owner. He got the job fucking done. He was definitely one of the greatest of all time in terms of team owners. And the way he just worked that fucking team, McLaren. Amazing job he's done with McLaren. Amazing. So you've got the driver lineup. Lando Norris, the Englishman, and Oscar Piastri. Now, with McLaren, I'm definitely... Okay, Lando Norris, let's start with him. Lando, kind of like Bottas, he can pull out some great qualifying laps. And in a race, he can pull out, like if he needs to do a fastest lap of the race, let's say, right, to get an extra point, he's the type of driver that can do it for you, right? So again, trying to get that fastest lap in a race is kind of like qualifying frame of mind, right? Lando Norris, good qualifier. Yeah, he's a good qualifier. He's a bitch. He's a moans all the time. Way too much, right? No respect for the guy that way. No respect. Because you know what? And when I go on about the guys who bitch and moan, guys, you know what? Treat your fucking team with some respect. Okay? They're in the trenches with you. They're in the dirt with you. Right? They want to win just as much as you do. And then you start belittling them, bullying them. Like, where's that getting you? It doesn't actually win you any favors, first of all. And you're in it together. Like, and Lando Norris, he's a bitch. He is good in qualifying. I'll give him that. And in race mode, he's quite good too. I just think he's a better qualifier than a racer. Now, he's definitely McLaren's golden child. No doubt about it. So let's go on to Oscar Piastri. Now, Piastri, I'd have him up there with Nick De Vries in terms of I'm really excited to see what Piastri brings. I think this guy has, like De Vries, mentally tough. I like it. You can see the confidence in him. He kind of reminds me of that Schumacher mental outlook and focus on things. Hopefully I'm right, because I'd love to see Piastri do well. I think he's going to be really good. And if there's anybody that could turn McLaren around on Norris, it would be Piastri or a Nick De Vries, that type. Piastri, yeah, I'm really excited to see what he does. Now, I honestly don't think it's going to turn. Lando Norris is their golden child. Piastri, he's the new guy. You can just leave him off. Let him just go around the track. Let him do some laps. Let him finish off his laps. But if it was a head-on-head, sorry, excuse, I can't even speak English. If it was head-to-head with Norris and Piastri in the exact same car, I think Piastri would take him. Now, yes, Piastri's going to have to get used to the Formula 1 car, of course. So Norris is going to have an advantage over him for now. But I think within 4 or 5 races, because Piastri knows a lot of the tracks anyway. So I don't think it's going to be a problem for him. So let's go up to Alpine. You got Esteban Ocon, Pierre Gasly. Well, number one, Ocon, he's a little fucking rat. This guy you couldn't trust to save your life. That guy would fuck you over in a heartbeat. Now, guys, first of all, you're in it to beat the other drivers. I was the exact same, right? But there's a certain amount of respect you have for your teammate, right? Now, unless the teammate fucks you over, well then, screw respect. But there's a certain amount of work ethic, respect that you have for a teammate, the other drivers. Ocon would sell you down the street in a minute if he could. He is a fucking rat. Now, he's a really good driver when it comes to slicks on the dry tires in the wet. Right? He's very talented at that. I will definitely give him that, because I tried to be fair. Right? He's really good in those conditions. He was kind of like Button, actually. Button had the same type of thing. Put Button and Ocon on a greasy, damp track with slick tires, dry tires. They'll kick ass, right? Not Senna and Schumacher and Fangio level, but they'll kick ass, right? So I'll give Ocon that. I fear for Pierre Gasly. Pierre Gasly's obviously, he was the number one in AlphaTauri. Excuse me, for the last couple of years. He won in Monza. Brilliant result. He obviously got fucked over in Red Bull. And by the way, guys, let me tell you this. He did get screwed over at Red Bull, right? I've seen this happen to other racing drivers before. You'll see that on Netflix Drive to Survive. Don't believe the bullshit that they were putting on Gasly. They just wanted to get rid of him, right? And get another driver in. And they wanted Albon in because Albon was bringing money to the team. Okay? So, yes, he made a couple of mistakes, Gasly, when he went to Red Bull. But you know what? Every racing driver makes mistakes. And then they just capitalized on his mistakes, made him feel worse. It was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. No one was behind him in Red Bull. Gasly is a good, solid fucking driver. He's got balls. He's got skill. Does he have the racing intelligence? To a degree, yes. Right? Can he pull out that extra tenth or two? Hard to know. I don't think he can. But he's consistent. He'll always give you 9 out of 10. Always give you 9 out of 10. I do rate Gasly. No question. Much better than Ocon. But I just fear that in Alpine, Ocon's going to be their number one and Pierre Gasly's going to get drowned. Oh, God. He's going to get drowned. It's a shame to see. I'm a fan of Gasly, I have to say, especially when he got fucked over in Red Bull. Terrible. So let's move on up the grid here, the list here. We've got Mercedes, Lewis Hamilton and George Russell. Okay, well, where do we start? Hamilton, biggest bitch on the planet. Jesus Christ. Can't stop fucking moaning. And what's with Hamilton going around with those platform shoes he has? Has anybody seen that? The guy walks around with like 4-inch shoes to make himself look taller. Like, hello, we all know how tall you are, you jerk off. Like, ugh, my God. Seriously. And you know what? Like, guys, I don't know, some of you might know that Hamilton used to race in karts. He was about 5 or 6 years behind me. He even raced at my dad's karting track, right? So, like, you know, the racing world was small back then. It still is a small world. And he, you know, so we all kind of met each other every now and then, and that was grand. And Hamilton, see, this is what I don't get about Hamilton. He can be a really cool fucking guy. And then he's going around then 2 minutes later bitching and fucking moaning. He wants to be in LA, a rapper, right? And he's fucking harping on about the team, this and that, fucking blah, 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 blah. Can't stop fucking complaining. And then he's wearing these fucking 4-inch soles on him to make himself look 4 inches, 5 inches taller. Hello, we all know how tall you are. Jesus Christ. Anyway, but then, on the other hand, he can be really old school driver, right? He's got big balls. He'll go for gaps that, you know, are kind of half there. Love that about him. So he does have an old school about him. I just don't get where he's got this new habit of bitching and moaning. It's going to be interesting this year because Hamilton's always been Mercedes' golden boy, their number one. But Russell coming on board last year, I got that feeling that they're kind of getting enough of Hamilton, right? And I think they're putting their efforts into Russell. I honestly think they will. And I wouldn't be surprised if Russell actually dominates in the Mercedes team over Hamilton this year. Not dominates the championship, but dominates over Hamilton. I think that's going to happen. It's going to be interesting to see. Russell, he's quite good. Yeah, I'd rate him. Fantastic qualifier. He's not really a racer. Right? He can definitely pull it off. He can, if he's in the lead, he'll stay in the lead. If he's in second, he'll go for a gap. He's a racer, but he's definitely more of a qualifier than a racer. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. It's going to be very interesting to see that lineup this year. I'd put my money on Russell overtaking Hamilton. And to be fair to Hamilton, it's not that Russell's better than Hamilton. No. They're just, Mercedes will put their attention into Russell and they'll give him the better car. I'll even give the Hamilton that. You know, Hamilton's fucking quick. Right? He's quick. He's not that quick. Right? You got, okay, Ferrari, let's move on. Leclerc and Sainz. Well, Jesus Christ, if there's one driver I just can't stand, I'm going to start with Carlos Sainz. He's the most boring, average driver that you could possibly have on the grid, Carlos Sainz. Now, ladies have no doubt, hey, you know, he's a great looking guy, so hey, fuck it, you know. If you like him, you like him. And that's cool. But Carlos fucking Sainz, he's so fucking average. He can be quite good in the wet, though. I'll give him that. He can be very good actually in the wet. But that's only like 5-10% of a year. Now, all the other time, his setup is crap. His feedback is crap. He's got a good car. He does the job. Yeah, cool. And you know what? He should... Oh, I'm just dropping things here in the office, guys. Sorry. And you know what? He does the job, but that's his fucking job. That's his job. He's there to be quick. So, you know, if people say, oh, well, he is quick though, Peter. Come on, you got to give him that. That's his job. He should be quick. He's getting paid millions of euros to be there, right? But definitely a number 2 driver. I don't rate him at all. He's lucky because his dad was a huge famous rally driver. Big connections. But, you know what? I'll give him that. He's very good in the wet. And that's the only thing he has. And to be a real good driver, you need to be good in the wet and the fucking dry and in pressure situations and all other type of situations. Leclerc, definitely rate Leclerc. No doubt about it. I think he's really, really good. Great qualifier. Great racer. He's got a good head on his shoulders. He can keep calm. And he genuinely seems like a nice fucking guy. And I do think he works his bollocks off. He trains a lot in the gym. His work ethic is good. I definitely rate Leclerc. And I'd like to see him do well this year, because I think Ferrari, they really sort of, in a way, they bullied him last year in 2022. They blamed a lot of their shit on Leclerc, which was horrendous to see. I didn't like that Leclerc just sat back and took it. I didn't like that. He's in a tough scenario. I get it. I just didn't like the way he did it, though. And maybe it's just because he's such a nice guy. It could be that. Okay, so last but not least, the Red Bull. Sergio Perez and Verstappen. Well, I do rate Verstappen. I'm going to start with Verstappen. No, we'll start with Perez. Perez, yeah, definitely a number 2 driver. He's quick. Yeah, he can pull it off. He can drive the car. He can get the job done. No question. He's Verstappen's bitch, though. It's as simple as that. He's Verstappen's bitch. There's no way. And you know what? I'd actually like to be proven wrong on this one. There's no way Perez is, going to be the number 1 driver when Verstappen is there. It's just no way. But you know what? I'm actually literally crossing my fingers here, hoping that I'm wrong on that one. And the way Perez, he wanted to get second in the championship just at the end of 2022 year, and Verstappen didn't help him out, even though Perez helped him out the year before to get the championship. Now, let's go on to Verstappen. Sorry guys, excuse me. So Verstappen, yes, I do rate him to a degree. In fact, he was my number 1. He was my favorite actually for the last couple of years, until he fucked over Sergio Perez last year. He fucked him. He absolutely fucked him. Verstappen could have helped. Verstappen had the championship won. Okay? Hear me out. The championship was won. Job done. All fucking over. There was nothing else to win for the championship. Race wins, yes. So, Verstappen goes out. I think he's in 10th position. And he could have helped Perez to win the race, or at least go ahead of him. Now, number 1, Verstappen didn't have a chance to win the race, right? So he didn't lose a race. Number 2, he's in 10th position. He didn't let his teammate pass, and all he says on some bullshit fucking reason on the team radio, I have my reasons, blah blah blah. He's full of shit, and I'll tell you why he's more full of shit. Because then in an interview after the race, he said, "Oh, I have my reasons. In other words, it's my business, but I'll help him out in Abu Dhabi." Right there, he gave the game away. You know why? Because, so you will help him, is it? So in other words, like, you're thinking, okay, if Verstappen had, I have my reasons. Well, Jesus Christ, like, what did Perez do? Did he shoot his dog? Did he shoot his family member or something? And that's why he's not going to help him? Like, if it was a huge, ridiculous reason why not to help him, okay, I'd understand that. But now he's admitted, oh no, I'll help him in Abu Dhabi. Oh, so you actually don't really have a problem with him. He's full of shit, Verstappen, and you know what? Number 1, karma will come back and bite him on the ass eventually anyway. Right? He had the championship won. You help the fucking team out. Right? You help the team out. Number 3, it's not going to go down well with the team in general. Yes, he's their golden boy, but you know what? It's in the back of their head. I could understand it more if Verstappen was in the lead and he had to give up a race win for Perez to do better in the championship, because if Perez was going for second in the championship over Leclerc, right? So he needed help. Now, at the same time, now, championship's won. It's all over. Verstappen, prick. Absolute prick. And I lost all respect for him. And to be honest, and I'm actually sad about it, because Verstappen was my favourite. He's not anymore. I did not like the way he did that. And I'm not a Perez fan. Right? He seems like a nice guy and all that. But you know what? I'm a believer in being fair to people too, you know? He wasn't risking anything. He couldn't have won the race, right? And if anybody says, "Oh, well, do anything to win," go fuck off. First of all, he couldn't have won the race anyway, right? If he was, when he was helping out, when he was meant to help Perez, he wasn't going to win the race. So, no, I was very, very disappointed with that. Yeah, so, guys, it's going to be an interesting year, I think, for 2023. We're going to talk about this more. I'm going to do a lot more podcasts on each race, a build-up and the aftermath of each race, and see where we're going, And I want to talk about Drive to Survive too, because that's coming out on, like I said, February the 24th. It's going to be an interesting year. I think it is. I think we're going to have a lot more. We're definitely going to have the teams more. I think it's going to be a really interesting year, because I think we're going to have the teams getting used to the developments that they had last year, right? They're going to know the car more. They're going to figure out ways to try and get around the car, right? With development and stuff, and get that little extra edge on other people. So this is going to, I think it's going to be great, guys. I think the racing is going to be closer this year. Hope to God, fingers crossed, of course. But it's certainly not going to get worse, put it that way, because they're all getting used to the cars. So roll on this year, baby. And we're only a month out. It's 31st of January, so it's the first weekend, I think, as far as I just remember. First weekend of March that we got the first round of Formula 1. Unbelievable how time has gone. Unbelievable. Yeah, guys, listen, that's my roundup for 2023. I'll be back more with Formula 1 and, of course, other topics. And thanks for listening, guys. And definitely check out Netflix now, February 24th. You should check out the website too, formula1.com. They'll keep you up to date with a lot of the technical updates, or any practice sessions, or just news in general. So, yeah, guys, thanks for listening, and I will see you again.